Hello and welcome to this edition of On the Record. I'm your host Jerome Sawyer, and this week we are on location in beautiful Staniel Key in the Exumas. So over the past few weeks, this group called the Save Exuma Alliance has really increased its public pressure to bring attention to a proposed development. The Integra Group is looking to bring a property, the Rosewood property, here to Exuma. Now, this property from the inception was touted to bring economic prosperity, provide jobs, and really give this island and these keys the much needed boost that it has been waiting for in many ways. However, here's the problem. The Save Exuma Alliance and many others are raising concerns, particularly about the environmental impact. Around the island, signs like this, and people in general are talking about this project. And here's the issue. They are concerned about the environmental impact, from the dredging to a proposed dock to even the scale of the development, raising serious concerns about the economic as well as the environmental impact. So, to bring some attention to all of this and to be completely transparent, this group has organized a media tour. We have been invited along to really take a look at the area where the project is proposed to take place, talk to some of the folks involved, and really give our insight into what is proposed here. So in this edition of On the Record, we're going to take you out onto the water, show you the area, and hear from some of the folks here who say they're not opposed to the development. What they are opposed to is the scale and the scope. Stay with us. Big Samson Key is one of the jewels of the Exumas. Here, the Integra Group has broken ground on what it calls a transformational development, the Rosewood Exuma Resort. According to a report from the Bahamas Investment Authority, the story begins when Integra Capital, an American investment company specializing in private equity and real estate, applied for approximately 29 acres of Crown land on Samson Key, which was later confirmed to be 22 acres. Their vision? An ultra-luxurious, environmentally sustainable resort. Plans outline private residences, including luxury bungalows, a 44-slip marina, food and beverage outlets, spa, beach club, organic farm, and even a school for the children of the employees. A 3-year construction timeline with $150 million in capital investment. Integra promises 250 jobs during the construction and 150 more once the resort opens, with 80% reserved for Bahamians. However, the vision raised questions from the outset. In 2021, when officials toured the proposed site, they found that the marina and bungalows would obstruct an active shipping channel, a route used daily by ferries and tour boats. The seabed would need to be dredged to allow large vessels to pass. The Department of Lands and Surveys provided a recommendation for a Crown land lease rather than a Crown grant, as it is not the government's policy to grant Crown land outright to a developer. The development recommended a 21-year renewable Crown lease and an annual rental of $500 per acre. The Department of Planning and Protection also raised further concerns about density and biodiversity loss for a planned worker village, the risk of escalating insurance rates from storm damage, and the challenge of building something so large on something so fragile. Still, approvals were granted and ground has already been broken. It is one of the most ambitious projects planned for Exuma in years, with shovels already in the ground and the green light from the government's environmental agencies. The Integra Group is pressing forward, but not everyone is rolling out the red carpet. The Save Exuma Alliance, an association of environmental groups, local business owners, and concerned Bahamians, is calling for a pause, urging that development proceed in a way that does not compromise the natural treasures of the Cays. Recently, they invited the media delegation to Exuma for a first-hand look at the proposed dredging lanes, dock sites, and construction areas. Among those speaking out is Kieran Miller, owner of Staniel Key Adventures.
And right now we're actually making our way through what we call the Samsons, which is between Little Samson Key, just off to the back of me right here, and we've got Big Samson directly adjacent from it. And between these islands you can find two very beautiful sandbars that are fully exposed at low tide, which we're about 5 or 6 hours away from right now. And then as we're making our way up ahead here, we'll eventually venture into the mangrove area, which is, like I've expressed before, it's a beautiful protected area. It essentially acts as a marine nursery for juvenile aquatic life. Things like fish, turtles, rays, bonefish most popularly can be found in there, as well as some of the protected mangrove plants of the Bahamas. So as far as development goes, what we're looking to do is just any development to have it done in a way that's completely conscious and respectful of the surrounding natural environment that we all typically like to use, enjoy, and people like myself get to profit from. One of the things being, dredging, trying to keep that as far away from things like your mangroves and your coral reefs as well. I think it's very important to note that things like coral reefs are very fragile. What is known as fast-growing coral actually only grows at a rate of about 2 to 3 centimeters per year, which is quite slow relatively. And the harder coral, slow-growing coral, it's about 0.5 to 1 centimeter a year. So just to be conscious of what we're doing as we're doing it, because a lot of what can be taken out or damaged, it's nearly impossible, if not impossible, to actually replace. And if we think about the Bahamas in general, and more specifically Exuma as we're here, I'd like to think that the big draw for a lot of our visitors is the natural beauty of the place. They want to come here, they want to see these pristine blue waters, the white sandy beautiful beaches, the lovely sandbars. I can't tell you how many northerners come down in the winter and spring months to do bird watching. It's a very popular thing, especially in this area as well. So all these things that intrinsically invite people to come here to spend money with not just myself, but with your straw vendors, your local pilots and different things like that, to keep protecting these things, and then not only that, but to do business in a way that encourages the growth of these things and the preservation of these things so that they're there for future generations to continue to benefit from and enjoy.
Can you say specifically how you think that this project will impact Staniel Key Adventures and the volume of business or the way you do business?
Well, okay. In my personal opinion, in a few areas that it could be affected, and directly a lot of my clientele specifically like the remoteness and the quietness of a place like the Exuma. A lot of my clients have done fairly well. Some of them have done incredibly well for themselves in life. And I think the common denominator about what brings people to the Exumas is the quiet and the remoteness and that type of charm, whereas you're here to disconnect and unplug, right? So I think once we start to, if we get to the point of overdevelopment, that immediately takes away that attractiveness of that charm right there, and it just becomes more or less another tourist destination, so to speak. And don't get me wrong, the Exumas is, in my opinion, the most beautiful place on earth. But, we can't be naive to think that it's the only beautiful place on earth. And, we've seen things like this happen in other places of the earth that have become popular tourist destinations. And I'd just like for us to be preventative rather than reactive as far as preserving what's key to us. And that includes working along with, obviously, your environmentalists and people like, not to toot my own horn, but myself and other operators that have been directly involved in the business and have the experience of what the effects of these things can do over a short-term period as well as a long-term period, and have witnessed the coming and going of different seasons, different projects and things as such. Additionally, well, let's say we get an approval for all intents and purposes 90 residency project. Well, I'm assuming that of those 90 residences, a hefty percentage of them are going to want to have access to boats. So that's more people out on the waters that aren't necessarily well versed in what needs to be done to protect areas like this. That exasperates the damage being done to coral reefs by things like anchoring, beach erosion, things like that happening from larger center consoles beaching themselves on these pristine beaches, keeping their motors in gear, eroding the sand out at an exasperating rate, whereas there's at that point 200, 300, 400% more boat traffic than normally would be. So things that would be worn down over the period of 10, 15, 20 years, we're now seeing being torn apart in the span of 2, 3, 4 years, which is alarming in all honesty, because there's, believe it or not, a limited amount of natural resources, and once you've damaged some things, it's done beyond repair and it's done beyond reproach. So again, we just like to consciously make sure we use everything in moderation in a way that it's here to be continually enjoyable for the future generations and people that would like to visit here in the future as well.
Miller took us personally on a tour of these areas where reporters pressed him on the impact of development in the disputed North Bay area and what exactly the Integra Group should answer for.
The Sea campaign seemed to use fear-mongering against the Samson Key project.
If you could actually be a little more specific as far as what you would call fear-mongering, an example would help.
Based on the conversation I held on the phone, she seems to say that y'all have not reached out to their organization, so you're just using...
Okay, again,
Okay.
as a member of the SEA, the Save Exuma Alliance, I can directly confirm with you that I personally have sat in every single meeting that they've had dated back to 2022, when the original initial plan was to develop Cave Key with over-the-water bungalows, and I expressed my concerns at that meeting. They can confirm that. Mr. McLean Felipe can confirm that. He remembers me directly from it. Okay? Beyond that, I personally have had a sit down with that man, Mr. Felipe McLean, in person. So as far as not getting any information directly from them, that's incorrect. Any information that I have ever gotten about the Integra project was from either sitting in a community meeting that they had or directly from the source.
Well, you kind of answered the follow-up two questions, so... Anybody else?
I dare him to challenge me on that.
There's a concern. I know you mentioned using in North Bay. There's a concern about
We answered the next two.
the traffic. I mean, how many boats could be going up back and forth to this service dock? And you say people use it. People snorkel there.
That's correct. I myself,
There's a concern there. About
I would say so. I mean, we've more recently had an incident, unfortunately, in Great Exuma where a swimmer was struck from a boat, traveling near by the shore. And less popularly, there was an incident again here in the Exuma Cays about maybe a year and some change ago again, where there was a larger boat traveling around near to the shore. And unfortunately, another passerby that was actually in a smaller boat was struck, and regrettably, one of the passengers died. Okay, now, I don't want to sit here and tell you that if they develop that dock, that every day somebody is going to die in that bay, because that would be the fear-mongering that this guy was just talking about, and that's just not what we're about, okay? That being said, if you develop that bay and you're able to successfully use it 5, 10 years, and 10 years in somebody dies from traffic there, was it worth it?
As we cruised the shoreline of Samson Key, our guide explained Sea's concerns to us while showing us the newly restricted areas and existing infrastructure that could be integrated into Integra's planning. Eluding collaboration with the surrounding resorts and attractions would not only highlight their dedication to the environmental stewardship, but it would also establish the future resort as a cohesive addition to the existing tourism-driven ecosystem in the neighboring Cays.
The SEA, the Save Exuma Alliance, also known as SEA, collectively, I think we've all said, but I want to say here again, that we are not against development. That's completely asinine. It's backwards of what we actually are. Again, we just asking that all developments here on out moving forward try to be as conscious of the environment as can be. And again, like I've expressed earlier, in my opinion, that comes with working with your environmentalists, your scientists, your different organizations, and again, your locals that are intertwined in that industry, if it makes sense. Myself, having been doing this for 15 years now, and spending basically my entire life on the water outside of being what could, I guess, loosely be called a professional on the water. But yeah, I just want to make it clear that we're not against development. We just want to make sure everybody that is coming here with the intentions and want to follow through with the actions of protecting this place, preserving this place, making it better if possible for everybody else to be able to come and enjoy. Goes without saying, over the last decade or more, Exuma has become one of the hottest spots in the Bahamas. It's a big tourist draw. I can't tell you the amount of boats coming in and out of here every day because of it. So, I mean, just based on the fact that it seems to have become more or less the bread and butter for quite a few people, it just makes sense for us to try to make it last as long and as best as we can, in my humble opinion. But then, myself as well, it's not just about there's the socio-economic effect of it as well. Myself being a resident of Staniel Key, got a population maybe 150 people. It's a quiet, little quaint neighborhood. People love it. Everybody knows everybody. It's like Cheers. Everybody knows your name. And you feel like you're coming back home to visit family. I mean, I don't lock my house. I never ever have to lock my house. My house unlocked right now. Right now, if you go to my house unlocked. I don't have to worry about crime. I don't have to worry about theft. I don't have to worry about any of that sort of stuff. So now another concern of mine is with a population of 150 on Staniel Key max, I think Black Point is at 300 to 350 people. With this project proposing to bring in, I don't know, the numbers change. Let's say 200 to 450 workers, whether it's part-time or full-time. You know, where are these workers coming from? Who are these people? You know, where are they going to be housed? How is this going to affect everything, in all honesty? Because you've literally taken the population and you've doubled, almost tripled it. How does that affect grocery stores on these little tiny islands? How does it affect the mailboat that's bringing supplies for local families as well as grocery stores, and so on and so forth? There's a lot of effects that could be negative, quite frankly, from something of this size just being dropped in the middle of nowhere. We in the middle of nowhere, y'all. Look around. Y'all see another human in the last, I don't know how long. We literally in the middle of nowhere. And this is the draw of this place. This is exactly why people come here. Even with the amount of marketing that the Bahamas gives Exuma, I can't tell you how much people I meet, how much people I talk to that don't even know this place exists. So to be perfectly honest with you, the vast majority of the time, the average tourist cannot find this place. You will not find the average tourist this place. You will not. This is where you find your tourist that is looking for something very specific. Okay? They go out of their way, they look and they research to get out of the way to come and enjoy exactly this. And now we're going to turn around and be like, let's bring the Miami vibe to this place. It's just not a fit. You understand what I'm saying? And for me personally, I think it's short-sighted to try to take something like that and stick it in an area like this, that it just does not work. And again, I point to you to the failed projects of the past of mega resorts. Okay? It's just not, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. It's not a good fit for this place. You'll go around and I'll point out a few more little boutique resorts, and these things do just fine because they fit into what actually will work in an area like this. I didn't wake up this morning and decide, I don't like how you look, I don't want you to develop here. I'm telling you what I have witnessed over the last 15, 20 years of attempted developments, failed developments, successful developments, and obviously there's a trend, right? So that's just me expressing my opinion.
Well, while there's a disagreement about the density of this project, the real controversial issue right now between the two developers is the North Bay. Can you tell us about the North Bay, the dredging that they're going to do for this railroad dock and all of that stuff? Is the North Bay really this thing that they describe as this pristine environment that Exumians use?
Yes, sir, and absolutely. So I myself, as a local boat operator, we offer snorkeling tours, we offer scuba diving, we offer fishing and conking and things like that. As we get into the water and explore there, as I hope you all get the chance to, you're gonna understand. Like I've said earlier today, it's easy to dismiss something when you're disassociated to it. Okay, you can't feel a sense of attachment to something that you've never experienced. You understand what I'm saying? For example, I myself have a 4-year-old. I've loved before, and I've heard people say you've never experienced a love until you have a child of your own. It's a very different kind of love that I could never have understood or related to, having not ever experienced. That doesn't make me any less of a lover if you have not experienced it. However, there's a level and a type of love that you've not experienced by being involved with that. Likewise, if you're not the type of person that jumps in and enjoys the water and does these things at all or with any kind of regularity, is completely understandable how easy it is for people to dismiss it as it's just another thing. But if you're the type of person that comes to this area because you enjoy this type of thing and that type of draw, and you get in the water and you see these things and you connect with the environment, not just the living creatures as it relates to the turtles, the fish, you might see a nurse shark swim by and things like that, but just to go under there and look at a beautiful underwater reef of coral garden and just be like, wow, this what down here? And you look from the boat all you want and it looked pretty down there. You could never understand and experience until you go down there and experience it yourself. So yes, from my standpoint, it's pivotal to Exumians in this area, not just for me to take people that want to hop in and go swim and look at it and be like, ooh, wow, beautiful, but it's a source of income for your local subsistence fishermen that go out and want to grab a couple of conch to maybe make some conch salad to sell, or maybe just to feed his family for that day. Or if he wants to hop in, maybe shoot a couple of fish, you throw on the grill. Like this is a lifestyle. We're a simple area, and we just want to keep it that way.
We asked if development could be done without dredging, without reshaping the seabed with docks and seawalls. The response was clear.
Why can't they use another point of access or entry for their shipping, as they are, if I understand correctly based on the information they've provided, there's going to be 2 marinas as well additionally going into this island. I mean, that seems like a possible opportunity to have your road go in there. Additionally, on the very same island here, Big Sampson Key, that they share with another developer who has a dock already installed for a Roro, is there the possibility of them utilizing that instead of having to dredge? What I'm saying is the dredge is being done unnecessarily. What is the point? What is the point? Is there the only way that they can get the project off this ground by dredging that then I'm just saying we're not being creative enough as people, and I'll take you right back to the development that I suggested on this island. You're just not being creative enough to try to empower people. And I feel like there's definitely other options for them as far as getting their Roro in and out of their to their island to access whatever supplies that they feel like they may need. And I mean, they're newer in the area, but this is a very welcoming and at the same time a very forgiving community, because I myself have stubbed my toes quite a few times around here. I had to apologize for it, and I'm still openly accepted and loved in this community. That being said, that will be the same reception that these people get. Everybody has ideas. Sometimes we disagree on things. And the important thing about this community is coming together to find a solution that works best collectively, okay? So whatever is said to happen moving forward, I know this community, and I know that the plan will be to move forward together hand in hand to try to make this as smooth and as beautiful a place and try to preserve this place as best possible, all right? Nobody's here is just particularly singling out this project specifically because this person have a personal beef with that person or any kind of frivolous foolishness that might be suggested. In all honesty, I'm speaking to you directly, and I'm telling you directly that my concern is the things that I mentioned to you. And if anybody wants to have an open conversation, I'm always open to it. They've got my number. They got my number. Let's do it.
There's one more thing. We see that they've already dropped equipment on the island.
Oh yeah, there's development going on right now.
So there's ways to get things on the island.
Currently, correct. It seems to be, yeah.
Without- yeah.
Seems to be. Like, I'm not naive enough to accept that the only way that this project could go on is by you dredging. I want y'all to get in the water and see this cut and see the reef them with down there and tell me what you feel about what you see down there. Because if you don't go and experience it, you will never feel connected to something. You understand what I'm saying? It's easy to say, we got plenty of reef, man. Go wipe that out. Okay, you do that. You set that precedent. What you think is gonna happen next? There's no shortage of money in the world. Ain't no shortage of money coming through Exuma. The next big deep pockets guy can come and be like, well, I want my island up here and I want to do the exact same thing. You all already approved it once and you already set precedent. So you let it happen once. You can't single me out and say I can't do it because now that's prejudice against me, right? And now we already set precedent that if whoever else comes along in the future to decide to develop, because a lot of these developers aren't here to stay eternally, then, eventually what's going to happen to these areas? What's going to happen to them? And things like coral reef are already at risk of dying out from natural resources. You have things like coral bleaching, I don't know if you're familiar with, which would happen from extended periods of warm water and different things like that. There's a big concern for, well, that's another controversial topic, but my point is, if there is a way to get this project off the ground without being so directly damaging to that part of the reef, as well as preferably, in my perspective, to downscale a little bit more from the amount of villas that you want to put there, then let's do it. Nobody is saying you can't come here and do well. Nobody is saying you can't come here and present a luxury type feel to your clientele. There's no lack of luxury around here to begin with. But like, come on, man, let's be conscious about it. If you say you care for the environment, show me. Put rubber to road and let's do it. This is existent. That the gentleman that reportedly they say have issues with them, there's his dock that he offered to them to use. There's it right here on the island that they talking about going and dredging reef for. Hi, fairmongering. All right. What wrong with the dock? Too small? Too ugly? You don't like the yellow posts? You want them red? Talk to me, man. Let's talk facts. Let's not fearmonger and talk feelings. Let's talk facts. What wrong with it? You can directly access his development from here. What wrong with it?
Too far.
Whoever that was talking about fearmongering, I can give you my number. You pass into them. I want to debate them on live TV.
Let me ask you then, is this, while the dock is here, will this be able to accommodate the types of vessels that they want to bring in? Is the issue the shallowness of the water?
Okay, so if the issue is the shallowness of the water, like I've raised the point before, they've already got existing plans for two, not just marinas, it's two super yacht marinas. Do you understand what a super yacht is? That's 200 plus feet of boat. If a super yacht can get into your marina, there's nothing that can't. Does that make sense? Okay, so if shallowness is the issue, then cool, you can't use it here because you're shallow. You have the same issue where they're planning on dredging because it is shallow. You know where you don't have the issue? Where your super yacht's coming into your marina. If you really want a solution. But you don't want a solution, you just want your way.
Stay with us as we get up close and personal with what's at stake ecologically. You're watching On the Record. We're going to be back right after this break. To understand what's at stake, scientists point us to the extraordinary ecology of Samson Key. Marine biologist Aniska Rolle describes the area as a rare confluence of ecosystems. Seagrass beds, coral reefs, mangrove creeks, and deep ocean waters, all pressed into the close proximity. Each of these systems is vital to its own. Together, they form a living mosaic found in few places on Earth. Seagrass meadows here are more than green blades swaying beneath the tide. They are nurseries, sheltering juvenile fish and invertebrates, stabilizing sediments, and storing vast amounts of carbon. They provide food and habitat for green turtles, a protected species in the Bahamas. Scientists note that the Bahamas hold some of the most extensive seagrass beds in the world, making this country not just a steward of its own environment, but a global carbon sink. Nearby, large, healthy colonies of boulder corals suggest resilience in the face of warming seas. These reefs provide coastal protection, support fisheries, and sustain tourism that drives local economies. Mangrove forests fringe the Key, their roots acting as natural filters, sediment traps, and nurseries for bonefish, tarpon, and countless other species. And just offshore, nutrient-rich deep ocean waters flow into the shallows, cooling and replenishing the reefs. Field surveys have documented endangered species in abundance: juvenile queen conch, green turtles, and in one extraordinary sighting, 35 spotted eagle rays feeding together in a high-current channel. Each a reminder that this place is not empty land awaiting transformation, but a thriving, interconnected web of life. To get a closer look at what is at stake, we went below the surface. The waters off Samson Key tell a story of their own.
One of the more outspoken critics at the center of this controversy is the Turtle Grass Resort, on which I'm standing right now. They are literally right across from the proposed development at Rosewood. Now, their concern primarily has to do with the proposed dredging that's going to take place here, which will help larger vessels to a dock that's to be constructed. Also, they are concerned about what the construction of those villas might mean for this environment. We are told it is a huge draw for the thousands of visitors who come here annually.
Tito Baldwin, an internationally certified Bahamian boat captain who has made a living in these waters, has raised environmental and safety concerns about the North Bay, where the proposed dredging, dock, and villas will be located. As an internationally certified lifelong boat captain in the Bahamas, he shared his insight from experience.
Traditionally in the Bahamas, the Exuma chain in the 365 islands, this is the crown jewel of the Bahamas. And as soon as we scar that crown jewel, it's gone forever and ever and ever. This cut back here, they want to put a 400-foot wall, 40-foot wide. That's going to block the natural flow of the channel coming in and out. That's how the mom feeds its babies. All of those zooxanthellae and microplanktons, all that comes into the Exuma Sound. And there we have conch, we have small mangrove snappers, lobster, grouper. All of those are highly dependent on that chain of events in order for the Exuma Sound to survive. What I'm opposed to is something that's never happened in the Bahamas before, which is someone going ahead and saying, let's go ahead and build a 400-foot wall, let's go ahead and dredge a football field with the sand, let's go ahead and destroy something that thousands of people have come here almost every single year just for the enjoyment of a few. That is, I think, irresponsible, and I don't think that is the best way of promoting the Bahamas. I think we had, 7,000 flights into Georgetown alone, I think, this year. And of those flights and of the people that come in here by boat, how are we going to tell them that we are going to forever change that which they've enjoyed for decades? Not only that, like when the husband and wife came out here and they got engaged, now they want to bring their kids out here. Now Bahamians want to come out here and get a couple of conch or go out crawfishing on the 1st of August. Now we can't. We will never be able to enjoy that, which has been part of the legacy of the Bahamas for many, many years. There's absolutely no alternative, because on either the north side of the island or the south side of the island, as soon as a vessel goes broadside to the current, so there's several different ways to get in here. One is going on the north side of over yonder key. But as soon as you go on the north side of the key, if you have any current coming behind you and you lose your steerage, there's a rock there that a lot of the captains, like mailboat captains, know about. That rock there is called the can opener, and that will, I don't care what kind of vessel you got, it'll split it open, and that there's no going back after that. And if you don't know those waters and you don't know those tides very well, then you have to go in front of over yonder key and come across a small sandbar. The other way of coming across is by wild tamarin and the mice. In that area at low tide, you can't cross that if your vessel draws more than 6 feet at low tide. So you have to time that tide extremely well. If you decide to come on either the south or north side, and if you made your way in, if you've got 7 knots of current coming across this and you turn broadside to that current, that's 170,000 pounds of force against your hull. There ain't no tugboat in Nassau that's going to be able to go ahead and hold that. It's going to dramatically change the way that vessel responds as soon as you go sideways to the current. You don't have a bow thruster. No one's got a bow thruster. Let's go ahead and say, okay, let's go ahead and build a wall now. Now you build a wall. Now you've created an eddy. And that eddy is going to be completely different than what the current is. If the current's going this way, that eddy might wrap around and it's going to go ahead and give you an opposite flow. That captain, if he doesn't know what he's doing, is going to also find the same problems that he's going to have. You build a wall, you've changed the flow and the current forever. And you're going to change this beach, you're going to change their beach, you're going to change their economic value of their island, you're going to change everything. So that way, there's no possible way that you can outcome or predict the future. And I would like to see what their oceanographic survey that shows exactly what happens when they build a 400-foot wall, because I haven't seen it as a Bahamian. I haven't seen it yet. Let's go to the other side. Now they want to do the same thing. Well, you ain't going to get a freighter coming in, or you're not going to get a very large vessel coming in for the size yachts that they want to come in from the ocean side on the south side of the island for the same reasons. You've got current ripping through there. Again, anybody know an island north here called Highburn Key? How many accidents have you heard about in Highburn Key? As soon as they turn sideways to the current, bam, right against the rocks. Imagine that on both sides of this island, and that's going to doubly impact how this whole island and how the Exuma is recognized in the yachting community. It might damage the yachting community for a very long time. And that's why a lot of yachts that come out here, you don't see them coming inside and anchoring here. The currents are ridiculous. Big Major Key, outside in the Exuma Sound, the places that have traditionally been good anchorages for a lot of these yachts. But the marinas that they want to do on that side is exposed to the open ocean. You look at the marinas like in Grand Bahama out in West End. You look at the marinas at Baker's Bay. You look Baker's Bay's on the inside. You look at the marinas that are exposed to open ocean, and they have an S-turn, and that S-turn is to deflect the force of the waves. you can't put an restaurant out there. And in the wintertime, when you got 10-foot waves out here, what's going to happen to that vessel out here? That's anyone trying to come inside here. There's waves that roll in through here and wrap around inside over yonder Key Harbor. Mother Nature don't play around, and when she says enough's enough, that's it.
So just to be clear, you're not opposed to the development.
No, you're 100% correct, and that's a great question. I'm not opposed to the development if it's responsible. But I am opposed to a high density impact development that's never been tried except for the exception of Norman's Key. Norman's Key is going through its challenges right now, and I don't know the extent of what those challenges are, but that's been going on for quite some time. The only other place that has a large development is going to be down in Georgetown. Georgetown, of course, is a commercial port where they have a lot of logistical support. But to try and do a high density development on an island that got no beach and there's nothing but rock, and you don't, as soon as you see where these, and every Bahamian here knows, right? These whispering pine trees right here are fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna plant me a coconut tree. You got whispering pine trees right there. The rest of the island is nothing but shrub and rock because nothing can grow on that. So that means that there's going to be a lot of destruction of natural topography of that land in order to go ahead and accommodate a house that a Bahamian ain't gonna ever afford that was put on Crown land. So that's an issue for me because we've got Andros. You know, Andros is could use a couple of jobs, right? We've got Abaco that could use some more work too. But why you want to do that kind of development on a small island? We've already had one fire festival. We don't need two.
What will be a better alternative for you?
A better alternative would be to lower the impact of development. Include the community, because there's so many incredible captains out here that can give you incredible advice and say, if it was me, knowing the islands that I know the islands, I would probably go ahead and do this. I would slow down and do this. Maybe decrease the size of the homes, because this is supposed to be a 300-man camp next to a mosquito swamp on the hottest side of the island, and you want to put how many Bahamians back there? I don't think so. So I wouldn't want to work back there. It'd be way too hot. On the leeward side of an island, because the predominant breeze is always out of the east.
Has there been any engagement from the government or environmental agencies thus far outside of your group that listen to you, that's taken any of your advice into account?
They haven't asked my advice.
Has there been any attempt to engage?
I think with the amount of opposition and the thousands of signatures on the Save Exuma Alliance, a lot of people are now starting to publicly becoming aware of how do we as Bahamians and foreigners that have come here for years, how do we engage the Bahamian government and let them know that we're concerned. It's the duty of the Bahamian government to go ahead and engage with the Bahamian people and say, okay, look, let's not just hear the voices of a few that want to put some dollars in their pocket. Let's hear the voices of the people that actually live, work. Let's hear the voices of the tourists that come here and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on their yachts. Let's listen to the common sense of that every young child in the Bahamas understands that you build a brick wall out here, you're going to change everything forever. You take away the conch from my baby when he's 6 years old, you're going to take a conch away from them forever. So there are some people that are pro-development, and I get it, and they're allowed to have their opinions. I think it's important to have your objective opinion, but let's sit down and explore. Let's have this public discourse so that way we can see truly what the impact is. Because if the Bahamian government, if DEPP tells me dredging a football field and putting a 400-foot wall and building how many homes on this island is an environmentally sound approach, somebody needs to have a little bit more coffee in the morning before they go and make these public opinions, because I don't think that anybody in their common sense and right mind would ever say that.
When we come back, we unravel the most contentious issue with this development. Perhaps the most contentious issue is the proposal to dredge North Bay for a service dock and to construct a 400-foot seawall.
And then again, I don't want to see the Cays in itself be eroded, things be damaged. It will hurt the environment in itself. The Exuma Cays is a beautiful place. We span from over Nassau, past Norman's Key, we come up, and a lot of Bahamians don't know that the Exuma Cays is like a hidden jewel, because a lot of persons haven't been to the Exuma Cays to see what is actually here. You can't put a seawall where the tide goes in and out. It's not going to ever work. Don't care how you put it, it's not going to work. So you need the environmental persons to take a look at that once again, to sit down to the table, put politics aside, and see that what's right for the community, the Exuma Cays, and the environment, and the Bahamian people.
Are you worried about how big the project is?
Yes, I'm worried about how big the project is, because we have a lot of persons here who have small businesses. We thrive on the tourists that actually come to the Exuma Cays. So if you put a big resort here, you will actually take away from us. Like the entrepreneurs who have the liquor store, the restaurants in Black Point, we have Deshamones, we have Emerald Sunset View, and it goes on and on. In Stanya Key, you will have Embrace Resort. You will also have the Stanya Key Yacht Club. And then you also have dogs there and a few other places that also cater to the tourists. So if you put a major resort there, you will in fact damper on our projects, because you will have persons, automatically they're going to want persons who's going to do like boat tours. So they're not going to need us if they have that in place here. So you have to think about your locals. You got to think about your people thriving for years and years to come and generations to come.
So what's at stake here? For many Bahamians, Exuma is a national treasure, boasting stunning beaches, iconic aerial views, and world-famous attractions like the swimming pigs and the James Bond Grotto, a playground for yachts and celebrities, but also a cultural and ecological heritage site. The Save Exuma Alliance warns that dredging here could mean carving a path the size of 3 football fields, erecting a 400-foot seawall, and displacing marine life. However, according to Sea, the stakes stretch beyond Exuma. At climate summits, the Bahamas has presented itself as a global leader, highlighting its seagrass meadows as a potential planetary carbon sink. The government has promoted entry into the blue carbon market as both a climate solution and an economic opportunity. And yet, as one advocacy paper points out, the Rosewood Exuma project would destroy unprecedented amounts of seagrass, undermining the very commitments the Bahamas has made on the international stage. The contradictions raise questions about credibility. Can the Bahamas ask the world to trust its stewardship of seagrass while authorizing the destruction at home? For Exumians, the questions are deeply personal. Job and economic activity are welcome, but not at the cost of their identity, their fishing grounds, and their future. The Save Exuma Alliance's stance is clear. They're not opposed to development. They call for smaller, more sustainable projects that complement rather than compromise the ecology of the Cays. In the end, the question is simple. Can development here be done without erasing the very paradise that makes Exuma so valuable in the first place? Once again, I'm Jerome Sawyer. Thanks for watching.